Well, hey there, Southern Oregon. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. So excited to have you join us again today. I'm Lema. I'm a local real estate broker with John L. Scott. And today we're going to talk to City of Medford Development Services because we're going to talk about starting your own business or taking your own business to the next level. And it's a very exciting episode. And we've got Carol Wedman, the Development Services Manager of City of Medford, and also Shannon Thorpe, the Business License Technician in City of Medford. And we're going to talk about if you have a company going, maybe you're working out of your house, maybe you want to start something and work out of your house. You can also grow into the commercial real estate business aspect. We're going to talk about the whole thing. We're going to talk about food trucks. We're going to talk about what it's like to work out of your home. It's going to be great. Carol Wedman and Shannon Thorpe from the Development Services Department, City of Medford. We're going to talk about businesses at home and in the commercial sector. Before we do that, we have some 2022 numbers. Finally, the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, who is also a sponsor of our show, thank you so much, but they put out the most amazing reports, and now we have the 2022. Want to just run some of these numbers by you. Josephine County started 2022 in January with a little over 2 months of inventory. We finished in December with over 4 months of inventory. It's up over 80%. It's taking 80% longer in Josephine County to sell residential property. However, the prices are up 5% in Josephine County. I know it's hard to believe, but right now, a residential property average price in Josephine County, $445,000 for 2022. Can you believe it? Let's do Jackson County. Jackson County started 2022 with 1.5 months of inventory. That's just a month and a half of inventory. We started 2022. We finished over 4 months average days on market. That's up almost 170%. Takes longer to sell your house. The prices are also up 5% in Jackson County. The average residential price is now a whopping $489,000 as of 2022. So let's take a quick break from our sponsors. We're brought to you by John L. Scott, Ashland, and Medford, the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, and Guy Giles Mutual Mortgage. Thank you so much. We appreciate you every single year. We're going to take a quick break and then jump into our interview, talking about business licenses, starting businesses, growing businesses. City of Medford, Carol Wedman, and Shannon Thorpe are here. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, everybody. So glad you could join us today. I'm Lema, your host. I'm a broker at John L. Scott here in beautiful Southern Oregon. And today we're talking to some of my favorite people from Medford Development Services. We've got Shannon Thorpe, a business license technician, and Carol Wedman, Development Services Manager. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
So your department, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, tell a little bit about yourself and what your department does. And then we've got lots of questions.
Want me to go first? Yeah. Well, in our area business license, the business license desk, we take in applications for anybody that's doing business in the city limits of Medford. So even if you're outside the city, you need to come in and get a business license. So even if it's temporary, contractor, anything like that, you need to come in and get a license. So we have folks that have a brick and mortar, building, members and licensing. You need to get a business license. Those are short term. Lease statements. So that's a huge area that folks don't think about it. Right? Most folks, it's easy to explain it like a hair salon, barbershop. But down to tattoo artists that just lease a chair, they have a spot, manicurists, mental health, we have counselors that do have lease stations. They rent, just a small 150 square foot little room. It might be temporary, a co-work place. We have businesses that, do co-working where you just go in and use the office space. You can get your clients there because you really, run the business from your home, but you need to spots to be. So we do that as well, license those. And liquor license endorsements through the OLCC. They'll come in with their application, and we have the fire department review that to make sure that everything is good to go, for safety. And then we make sure that they have a commercial business license for that. So there's a lot of things that we do. Folks don't know about us, they kind of think of it as an afterthought, and they really should be getting the license before they open.
Yeah.
It's really
We're going to
important.
talk about that.
Yeah, you bet. So that's kind of what we do with our guests and everything.
Yeah, that's a really broad amount of area that you guys cover. So, and Carol, what does development services manager do?
So I oversee the permit intake and business license programs. Shannon is our senior licensing person. So she's really key in helping us to review code and see that it's relative. And, like when marijuana came in, there was a lot to do, a lot in code, a lot of regulation. So I kind of facilitate some of that stuff. I do the budget for the building safety department. So I have my feet in both camps, the building side of the house and the licensing. I do, as I said, I do budget and prepare some items for council for the director. And then really I fill a lot of gaps. I've helped implement software here and, problem solving. So
wow.
Gap filler is really the appropriate of what I do here. And then licensing does tie in pretty closely to the building department, because many of these business types go through full reviews of the fire department, engineering, planning, and building. And I think Shannon might have touched on change of use that will require permit, a lot of the times permits and plan review and, and inspections before they can even open. So
yeah, what does a change of use mean?
So you have like a bookstore going to a restaurant.
Gotcha.
Shannon probably has a million.
It's amazing. It could be anything. A store, a little retail boutique store that goes into a hair salon. We've got sinks and we have ventilation and nail salon, all that stuff. So that's part of the thing. It's not stuff that we kind of bear out into some these folks don't know. So we have to help guide them. The mechanics up there. Everything it's safe, it's ready to go, and it's going to go through the review process. That's nothing for commercial business license. We do a full review for commercial business.
So if somebody wanted to do something like in a strip mall, then definitely the fire department, traffic, all those people have to weigh in on their permit. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, but what if you want to do something in your house? Like some hair people do hair in their house. Is that okay? Are you supposed to do that?
It is okay. The state of Oregon for cosmetology, they do allow that. The thing with home-based businesses, we have an agreement, a home-based agreement, and there are rules and guidelines about running a business from your home. So you need to review that as a home-based business owner. And part of like having a salon, a hair person, nails, whatever it is, it's how many trips people are coming and going to the house. Because, you always have to remember that's residential and you want to keep your neighbors happy. You want to make sure.
Yes, you do.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's nothing like having an upset neighbor giving us a call, but that's part of the thing. So
it happens.
Yeah. So there's like a little schedule, a little count of trips coming and going from a home. So, and you also take a look at how many people live in your home, that teenagers are coming and going. So you just don't want to. It's really to keep the neighborhood happy too, to make sure that you're not having cars leaving and going and coming all day long.
So is there a standard or a limit? What are the
limit?
rules?
It's on an average of 10 a day. So it's really coming to the house and leaving. And that would be 2 trips. So you really would think of it just maybe as 5 customers in a day on an average.
Actually, that's pretty high.
That's in our agreement.
Does it include owner?
That's what I just said
as well.
So yeah, so if you have a teenager that's going to high school and coming back and driving,
And then they can't come home.
that's not it. Yeah, that doesn't
Because
work.
we have to count it.
Yeah. And so it's just being aware, it's not a commercial business license where you have a parking lot and your customers are coming and going. No one cares how many people going in and out. But when you're in your home and they're parking in your driveway or right in front of your home, your neighbors, you're just keeping things nice and friendly, not a lot of traffic.
They also can't store like work vehicles out in front. They have to be behind a gate. There's a lot of criteria in there. And that, also allows enforcement because they've agreed to this. They're aware of this. So if a neighbor does complain, code enforcement can go out and say, hey, you can't do this, or your license will be revoked. So, but we're really good at working with people, and people want to do the right thing. So
Yeah, you guys are it's just amazing. You know, you
Mhm.
guys answer the phone, you know what you're talking about, you're nice as pie, and you help move us along to the next step. And that's why I'm so glad to have you on the air today. We're talking to Shannon Thorpe, City of Medford business license technician, and Carol Wedman, development services manager, City of Medford. And we're talking about businesses, home businesses, starting businesses, some code enforcement, and also touching on foot traffic in a residential area. What about the people that are doing childcare? Because they have lots of foot traffic.
Mhm. Yeah, there's rules, and majority of the folks that have a larger daycare out there, they're going to be a commercial. So that goes through
Oh, they're going to have a commercial address?
more of a
Okay.
commercial address, right? But we do have folks that do childcare, and so they have to limit the trips as well. It's the same thing, you know, with the home for any home-based license. But there's a lot
Okay,
of
so
things going
five
on.
trips. Is that right?
essentially, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that would be one parent 2 times, 2 parents 2 times.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's different rules of how many children can be in a home. This is something that we are working in a process, and we can certainly, you know, answer some questions after. But there's a huge process that we're building right now with some new changes last year. So we're going to be building those processes.
So is that new changes in code enforcement or
Yeah, for
child?
home-based childcare.
Like
Oh.
number of children,
Yes.
certain, it used to be, I think, a higher threshold, lower
Yes.
thresholds trigger different reviews,
Yes.
different type of business.
Mhm.
You know, that all comes down from the state. That's not something
Yeah.
we, and you know,
Mhm.
enforcement's limited. A lot of it is honor system. Again, some of these agreements just allow us to enforce it if there's complaint. We're complaint driven, essentially. We don't have
Mhm.
regular visits or things like that. We're not the strong iron arm of the law. We're just, even the number
Yeah.
of trips, that's just more, you had to pick a number, right? So
Yeah.
people are reasonable. You know,
Yes.
nobody's
Yeah.
counting your trips. It's just don't have 10 of your employees coming and going all day long.
Mhm.
So we're not the heavy enforcers. It's just more to set
Mhm.
reasonable guidelines so to keep people happy and safe, basically.
Yeah, and Carol brought up, you know, like having your employees at the house. There's really a home-based business. You know, it really, we call it assembly of employees. Your employees are not allowed to come to your residence, your house, park all their cars, jump in the work vehicles and leave. They need to meet at the work site, so it's not clogging up the streets and, you know, out front of other.
Oh, I
people's
did not know
homes.
that. Wow.
Yeah, so it's called assembly of employees, and it's a hard one to understand, but we just go back to the root of it, that folks need to be aware that, you know, this is a home-based business. It's not commercial, you know, so you try to be kind, being good with your neighbors.
Well, and some of these home-based businesses, once they get going, they're positioned to move out of the neighborhood and get, you know, their own office space or their own yard, their own commercial yard.
It happens frequently. It really does. And so we'll be able to help them transition, moving that license and keeping all that good history, you know, for their credit, for everything. It's just nice to have that good consistency, and we can move the home-based license right over to commercial, go through the review.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So we keep all the notes in there. So, you know, anybody's asking for any, you know, longevity notes, and it helps them with loans, things like that. So those little things help.
Wow. That's incredible. So during the COVID, you know, a lot of people retrained, they changed careers. So I'm just wondering if we saw an uptick in home and not home and just business in general in the last couple of years.
We stayed pretty steady, right
Mhm.
around 6,000 business licenses.
Mhm.
And I jotted down some stats. That includes about 253 liquor. So we're usually.
There are not that many liquor
6,000
stores
strong.
in Medford.
Pardon me?
There's not that many liquor stores in Medford.
Well, that would be people serving liquor too,
Being
right?
based.
Restaurants.
Oh, okay.
OLCC endorsements and all.
Mhm.
So, you know, ever since I've been here, I think we've been right around the low 6,000s.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I think we peaked at 7,000 like 5 or 6 years
Mhm.
ago, but ever since, even during COVID, Alice, the city offered 2 rounds of business grants.
Mhm.
I think we gave out 250 grants and they were $1,500, around $1,500 each, I think. To try to keep people, we didn't know it was going to go on for 2 years, right? But just to try to mitigate some of the loss that people were feeling through that time. So we're not just an enforcement agency. We really do try to stimulate business, support business. We recently enacted a couple new programs. Our building safety director, Sam, he's starting a program called Destination Downtown. It hasn't really launched yet, but we're going to send letters out to all the businesses in and around the downtown, just letting them know, hey, if you have a vacant or underutilized building, come on in. Let's talk about what you might be able to do with that building. We'll consult.
Wow,
No
that's
charge,
great.
just to try to help people to build our city. Anyway, so I'm also going to sit on or walk on a reimagined tour with Downtown Medford. Ann Jenkins, she's the interim director of Downtown Medford Association, is putting together a group of developers, business owners to walk around the city and point at businesses and say, boy, an ice cream shop would be great here. Like, imagine what your downtown could be.
That's going to be awesome. We've got to take a quick break from our sponsors real quick. We're talking to City of Medford, Shannon Thorpe, and Carol Wedman. We'll be right back. Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema, I'm a real estate broker here with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we're talking to Shannon Thorpe and Carol Wedman. They're with the City of Medford Development Services Department. Shannon's a business license technician, and Carol is a development service manager. And we are talking about business licenses, real estate. We're talking about commercial, and we're going to touch on some of the small business activity that's going on around our area. Thanks for being on the show again, ladies.
Thank you.
So during the break, we were talking a little bit more about commercial, what it takes to have a commercial business and some of the review processes.
Right.
Can you weigh in on that, Shannon?
Sure. So when you have a brick and mortar business, so you're actually in a retail spot, in a commercial, a building, in a suite, things like that, before you actually open and start your business, it's good to check in with our planning department here at the city, talk about zoning to make sure that your type of business is okay. It's in the right zone for what you want to do. Good to check in with your building department for any possible change of use. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but also if there's any permitting that might need to be done, for building permits, changing a wall, adding a sink, electrical, anything like that. And so when you apply here for your commercial business license, it's going to go through a review. And the first stop is planning. So if they say no, it's not going to go anywhere. That's it. It's moved. We can't go any further. So it's going to go building, planning, engineering, fire department.
Oh, so it has an order. It
actually has an order. And when we changed the system several years ago, it always had a bit of an order, but we now really have the stopgap at certain departments. So if they're going to put it on hold, they're going to get things answered, you can get permits done, things like that. But really, it's always going to start with planning. So always check in to make sure that what you're doing is approved in that section of the city, in that little zone. So there's that. It goes through, it's about maybe 3, 5, 7 days, depending, on how things
Which I
go.
think is very quick, don't you?
Yes, and sometimes it's even faster than that. It just depends, because if you can do all your due diligence before you bring us your app, and you can even work with us, talk to us about it. And I don't really understand what this means by talking to planning or whatever, but we have some great people that really work with you on things and explain things really well. Building department is amazing, and everybody will work with you. I keep saying that, but we're just such a good team here that will walk you through the process, will help you out and get it going, and it really will fly right through. So it's really good. It's all safety. It's all anything permitted. So
there's a reason behind all of this, you guys. It's not fun to be a cheat. And then if you get caught, then you might have got caught because somebody got hurt. It's like all these rules and processes are for the citizens' best interest and for the community. So that's why it's so important to get the word out what the rules are. And it can also help you move your business, like we were talking about before, from, maybe you have your beauty parlor in your house and now you're going to expand, and you guys are just so helpful in getting all that done.
Yeah, we try really hard to work with folks. We're not the bad guys here. We're really
No.
not. Yeah, it's a good thing. It really feels good. It's a good accomplishment, and it's a nice thing to hang your business license on the wall of your business.
Oh, and
really-
it's so exciting. Yeah.
It is,
And
it
so
is.
after the shutdown, a lot of people did want to start their own businesses. And one of the really popular things we saw more than ever were the food trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy,
So
that-
how does that
boom.
work?
That took off. That is same thing. It's going to go through a commercial review process. There's a little bit more to it. I know I joke about this, but these days the marijuana process to get your marijuana business license here is pretty smooth. Getting a food truck, it's a little bit more.
Oh,
work.
no kidding.
Yeah,
How
but we
funny
have,
is
I know,
that?
but we want to make sure that you have permission to park there. We want to make sure that your truck is not too big. It's a planning code right there. That it's not too long, not too large. We have to make sure you have your Jackson County Health inspection, then that's done. It's all good. Environmental, all of that. All of that.
What's an environmental on a food truck?
The food.
Oh, okay.
And they make sure storage, everything there is in the truck is going to be safe. So they have to go, there's a lot of processes. So once you have all the pieces and we lay it out in our application. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get all that stuff and we look at it and we put it through review and then it's ready to go. We also have, we have to ask for a site plan. You're looking.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah. So where are you going to park that truck? And planning looks at that to make sure that it's safe, for the traffic coming in and out, driving in and out of that parking lot, wherever you're at. There's so many pieces to it. So, but boy, it really took off. That was just, people couldn't go into a restaurant. So like, well, I'm getting a truck, I'm going to park it outside,
Yeah. And were they fairly successful?
I think we have, last time I looked, we had 67 food trucks licensed in Medford.
Yeah.
67.
Wow.
Quite a bit. I always want to go back and look, but I just haven't taken the time to do it, but it really took off. And most of them have stayed. It's been wonderful.
We
Yeah,
do
well,
have 6. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just to say, we do have 6 designated city spots that if you apply and it's first come, first serve around the downtown. Like where Victory Dogs used to be, that's one, like the 2 ends of the library across the street though. I think there's one in front of City Hall.
Yep, right by the fountain over here. So then we have, by RCC all the way down. So those are city approved. Those are like small cart. Think of like a hot dog or like a small bento, cart.
So what does that mean? City approved, first come, first serve. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's so those are city approved corners.
They designated the space.
They're already
They
predetermined.
don't have to send, as long as their little cart can be pushed and not driven in.
Yep.
They just apply and basically you get it. But it's there. I can't remember what we designated so many months and then the next person.
Right. So it's not always
I see.
there.
So
yeah,
you don't have to
first
fight
serve,
it every
first serve.
morning at
Yeah, no.
dark
Well,
30
you're-
to get
you're
your
approved for
corner.
that corner. Yeah, you're approved for that corner or wherever you're, for those approved sites. And then, once or twice a year, then, they take a look at it. Do you still want to keep that one? Or we're going to open up for somebody else? Do you want to move to a different spot? So things like that. Yeah.
Okay, that's
But most of
super
them
cool.
are on private property right now,
Yes.
which is a
Yes.
little different. Interesting fact, though, the food carts are fine, but you see little vegetable stands on the corner over by South Medford and stuff. They need a license too. You can't just plop down. So
Well, I just assumed they
people
had a
don't know.
license. You're
Pardon me?
saying they don't? I
they
thought,
do need one, but most
Yeah.
people don't know that. We get complaints and we'll drive out and the person doesn't know they need a license.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Or they're gone. And then they're by the time we catch up. And it's really most of what would be reviewed there is really like through engineering, public works, through right away.
Yeah, for
so
traffic impacts and
Yeah, so it's safety.
Mhm.
Safety. And it's really
Again.
important. But you see them just with a little umbrella. It's like, oh, that's awesome, that fresh fruit. But it's like, it's not safe for people to pull over outside a road and hand money out the window and take a, tray of, box of oranges or whatever. So that's
exactly.
yeah, it's just not safe.
essentially, if you're making money in the city of Medford, you should have a city of Medford business license.
See, that's easy to remember.
Yeah, hard to get that point across, but yeah. easy to remember.
even our nonprofits and exempts, folks that are exempt, they'll be exempt from the fee, but they still need to apply. We need to make sure that everything's safe.
Yeah. So for going back to the food truck, are you going to open up more predetermined, designated, like you've got 6 now? Is that something the city of Medford is open to adding a few
Not at
more
this- I
locations?
I haven't heard anything.
There's
about
been
that at
no
this time.
conversation about it. We did talk about it with engineering because of the fruit stands and stuff. So if fruit stands really became prevalent, I think we would talk about, okay, where can these businesses locate? Because, you know, they're often over by North Medford High on the corner. There's no parking. People just pull over and it almost causes accidents. And so we did talk about, we had one guy that sparked that whole thing, you know, hey, we got a license, but he's somewhere, do we license it? We had to change our code to kind of accommodate it.
Oh, wow.
We only have had him that we know of, right? I think one or two.
Yeah, and that's it. And, you know, so I think in the spring, early summer, we'll see some more, you know, and we'll need to hopefully
So
get the word out.
we don't have a lot of like jugglers and mimes and stuff like they do in some of the beach towns, but would that person, if they want to put their hat down and play the violin, theoretically?
That's illegal, actually, isn't it? Pedaling?
Well, pedaling, yes, but if you want to sit out front, it's called busking.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's
I know,
called
it's a
busking. That
big-
sounds so old
busking.
English.
It is. That's what I think. But that it is allowed, but you know, you do need to get approved to be sitting there and doing
It's your
that.
business license, though, no.
No, it just, you know, if the business owner's okay with you
Oh,
out front, just
okay.
playing a guitar, doing that sort of thing, but you certainly can't set up shop all day long and ask for money and I'll play you any song you want for $5. That sort of thing is not.
You cannot do that.
No.
Good to know. Good to
It's
know.
blocking the sidewalk.
Oh,
Blocking the sidewalk. Mhm.
Because that would be nice for the food truck people. They could have like a little song and dance while they're
well,
having.
there are special event permits through the city manager's office where if you're like, hey, I want this band to play on Friday nights or just this week, you can get a special event. And a lot of that's also for, again, safety, back to safety. So the police know what's going on where there's going to be crowds. There was, you know, if you're a business that's traditionally indoors and you're going to do this outdoor event, there's some things that go with it. If you're going to serve alcohol, you have to fence the perimeter so people can't wander in and out. People wouldn't know that, right? Like if you weren't working here or you didn't take the time to ask, you know, I'd throw some tables out and have a little party, but there are code impacts to that for safety again.
And this brings up a good point is if you want to do something, instead of coming and talking to you guys at the end of your project, come and talk to you at the beginning.
Absolutely. Some planning's reviews could require a committee or commission review. So it could take 3 months before you're even approved to do some particular venture. You know, I know oftentimes if you move into a new building and it's a big dirt lot and you're on the back side of it, and there might have been a like business there for 25 years, it wasn't required to be paved. But now you buy it, you move in, well, you're under the new owner, and that's
a shocker.
$20,000. Yeah. So I mean, I think it is best that if you're changing your business in any way or moving it, just we're all electronic, email, phones. We try to make it as easy as possible. Give a call because you don't want to get stuck with that at the end of the day and go, I didn't have $30,000 for a parking lot. You know, a driveway in, it's a dirt. It was the same business I had, I know, but today's the day and yesterday was, you know, we don't go into businesses and say, our code has changed, you have to pay. But when it sells, you need to be aware of what current code requires.
Well, and it's so heartbreaking. Like if you are in love with the idea of having a gravel driveway for your business, and that's part of your vibe, and then you find out it has to be paved, it you know, it just changes things. So always check ahead. So speaking of things we don't know, what about Airbnbs? Do those have to be licensed?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
What kind of license?
We call that a vacation rental because you're taking a little vacation, coming to town, you know, renting somebody's room or their little house. So they do need a business license. They do. And there's good neighbor guidelines that you know, Carol did a great amount of research on that for us and set this really nice, being a good neighbor, all those nice little rules, letting your neighbors know that you're running a little business from your house. You know, people are going to be coming and going for a vacation.
That's nice. So you send that
like,
to how many people?
They required a 250
50.
feet radius.
Mhm.
Anybody living within a 250
Yes,
feet radius,
yeah.
you have to notify.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also you have to provide contact information
Mhm.
24/7.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. We're talking to Shannon Thorpe and Carol Wedman of the City of Medford, talking business licenses, development services, things going on with our local community and people, doing things in their homes and in their offices and how to do them correctly and safely. So we were right before the break talking about these surprising things, like you need a business license if you're gonna sell fruit on the corner. Like a lot of people don't know that, but also the Airbnb situation is pretty popular. What about that?
Yeah, you'll need a call a vacation rental business license with the city here, so that you have that business, you're making revenue, so you're running a little Airbnb, VRBO, all that for your home. You need to let your neighbors know, because we have a good neighbor agreement that you sign, and you need to let your neighbors within 250 feet radius of your home know that you're running the vacation rental from there, because they're going to see cars coming and going on just on the weekends, or every 3 or 4 nights there's a new vehicle. It's like, what's going on? Your neighbors are nosy, and they should be seeing what's
And
going
they
on.
should be, yeah,
And they
yeah,
should be,
especially in
totally.
today's world.
Exactly. So, it's just, so those are the things that you need to have. It's really simple. It's not hard at all.
For
Is that-
there was other tagline is that they do need to have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week notification numbers. So if anything happens, there's someone to call. If you're going to the Bahamas, you need someone in town, if you're going to rent that out, that can be a contact to work any issues.
Do they have to be like boots on the ground or just phone?
Phone, but if there's an issue, somebody has to be able to work it. That's part of the agreement, that if your neighbors have issues, there's a big party at the house, or the people who are renting leave garbage in the front yard, that's a no-no. So there are those issues to consider. And also we had an interesting, I learned through this, there was a home that had an ADU, accessory dwelling unit at the back that they were renting out. That was all fine. And then they were also renting the master bedroom. They'd put a lock on the door and they used their French doors as the entrance for that. And they were using it as a vacation rental.
Okay.
Again, we're complaint driven. Someone called and said, hey, I think they're renting out part of their house. Well, is that legal? So the gal, of course, people were already legally running an Airbnb or VRBO, whatever it was. And she called and she's like, what do I have to do? I just assumed it was okay. But if you are separating a structure, and this is on the building safety side of the house, you have to have fire separation between those two.
You
can't just lock the door and say, we're good. And that's really the key to it, is fire separation. That's the big difference between a separate structure. And so the particular person that we worked with was like, well, then I'm not going to rent it out right now, but I am going to get back to this and have that done. So people aren't most of the time trying to, break the law. It's just an awareness thing. That's a thing that the average person wouldn't think of, right?
Not at all.
Yeah. And you guys are so nice about it. We've had some real estate people doing like things in RVs, like they're doing counseling. They're using their fifth wheel and having people come in and do again.
Oh, yeah.
Like, well, let's talk about what's wrong with that.
Well,
it's that would be a different situation. And
I'm sorry for laughing. I'm sorry.
No, it's true. We have some stories, but we won't tell you those. But like something like that, it's like we wouldn't be able to rent your RV out on like next to like your driveway right there on a graveled area. That's not allowed.
Can you rent your RV out at all?
Not sitting at your home.
So the Airbnb thing?
I mean, I think if you put it on a permanent foundation, you might get into a whole different world. I'm not going to speak to that because I am not technical as far as that goes. The only code I know is through osmosis, here and there. But I think that might be an option. That would be a reason to call the building department, right? And talk to some of our experts.
But there's Airbnb, there's people Airbnb in their trailers.
Well, we have had to ask someone to quit doing that. You can't live or do that on that is code that prevents you from doing that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the home that rented out the master. The guy was already renting out a room in his house, and then he had an RV in the backyard. And there was some liberal, we backed off on code during the fires because
exactly.
we're like,
Which
people
was
need
really
places to
nice, actually.
live.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we let people live in it, and it's not really us, it's planning, but people were allowed to live in their, building doesn't have anything to do with anything on wheels. We just don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some good life lessons today.
Do you have any time left to talk about rental registration? Just a moment.
Oh yeah, please.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to talk about
What is rental registration?
Well, it's for any owner of a home that is renting out long-term. So that you have, that's really what you bought this piece of property as an asset, a business, for you. You need to register that home. So with our program with the city, so that we know it's for, emergency services, it helps us out that way, making sure everything is safe, that it's not a ward type situations. We know. Yeah, I don't know. Those things are.
Well, just so you know,
it's
what's going on.
Well, it's to maintain, we maintain
safety.
a database so that if police or fire get called, they can actually GIS right to the point, see who the owner is, contact information. That's the biggest reason we do that. And also for housing inventory. We have no way to know who's renting and who's not right now. So we're right around 700, probably around 700 rental registrations. But we're in the process of transferring it to the utility billing department, which has a list of all rentals already in.
Oh, that's right. They do.
This is
yeah.
something for you to know for your clients.
That is actually really smart.
The other 1,300 people that aren't paying right now, and I'm assuming because they don't know they need to, will be notified once it transfers. And the cost ranges from $40 to $100 a year. So we just take it on an honor system. People know it's code, they pay, we send them renewals. But the utility billing system has a list of people, they know which are rentals. So you'll be notified that you are required to pay the annual registration fee. You are, meaning those who own rentals.
It's nice to know the owner, that we can contact the owner. A lot of these folks, they don't even live in the state. There are quite a few that don't live in Oregon.
It's shocking how many people live somewhere else. Yeah.
I didn't know that until we started doing the rental registration program a few years ago at our desk. And so it's nice to be able to have a good contact for them. And a lot of them don't have a property management company. It takes.
They don't. No, there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers.
Some crazy things happening.
Yeah. So going back to the Airbnb, if you're renting rooms, then if you're Airbnb several rooms, then would you just register the address, or are you registering, the room rental is just getting to be so popular, and we only have a minute left. We're going to have you guys back to talk more about this, but just like in 2 sentences, what about room rentals? Licenses or no license?
You would need a business license rental, vacation rental. It's short term. Now renting out your room, you're renting out your room. It could be family, it could be anybody. That's something we're not having speak for a business license on. It's just keeping a long-term rental. That is the rental registration program.
Oh, okay.
The vacation rental would be your short term, where you're like posting it, online, Airbnb, Vrbo, all those little sites. Yeah,
Okay.
Very short term.
Okay. Well, thank you, Carol and Shannon. We definitely want to have you
Thank
back
you.
on. This program will be repeated tomorrow, Sunday at 6 p.m. And just a reminder, the station is moved to 99.5 FM. The sound is way better. They're not on AM anymore. Have a beautiful Southern Oregon weekend.
You too,
Thank
Alice.
you.